of money. Wait for the answer. I will try to speak about three different points. The first one is what are the things I'm interested in terms of companies, in terms of projects. Maybe give you entrepreneurs in this room a few lessons learned from my personal experience in terms of transferring a project from the lab to the market. And finally give you some kind of insight on the financial ecosystem to address what Silas was just mentioning in terms of cash availability to develop your company. First of all, regarding what is of interest for me, and let me share with you maybe a small story. I have a 10-year-old son, and every time I ask him to clean the table after dinner, he says, "Dad, when will you stop building a robot that can do it?" So that's a tough question. And then I found out this video, and I presented this video to him to get his feedback.
Chaîne de la science-fiction, sci-fi.
So that's a commercial for a science fiction TV channel in France. And when my son saw this video, he told me, and I quote, "No to the perfect future." So I was quite puzzled. He's asking for a device to do something for him, but he doesn't want this device to replace him and to be the perfect device so that he has nothing to do anymore. And this kind of concern is exactly at the core of what I'm looking for. I'm looking for companies and projects that solve someone's problem, but in a way that we're just solving a problem, we're not replacing someone. And we do that in an ethical way. And that's clear that today with robotics, there is some kind of a concern about it. Another way to phrase it will be in this next video.
The best analogy I've ever heard is Scientific American, I think it was, did a study in the early 70s on the efficiency of locomotion. And what they did was for all different species of things on the planet, birds and cats and dogs and fish and man and goats and stuff, they measured how much energy does it take for a goat to get from here to there, right? Kilocalories per kilometer or something, I don't know what they measured it. And they ranked them, they published a list, and the condor won. The condor took the least amount of energy to get from here to there. And man didn't do so well, came in with a rather unimpressive showing about a third of the way down the list. But fortunately, someone at Scientific American was insightful enough to test man with a bicycle. And man with a bicycle won, twice as good as the condor, all the way off the list. And what it showed was that man as a tool maker has the ability to make a tool to amplify an inherent ability that he has. And that's exactly what we're doing here. It's exactly what we're doing.
So I would say it's exactly what I'm looking for. And Steve Jobs in 1980 had this talk. He was very young, and he described computers as being a bicycle for the mind. And I think deeply that robotics not only could be a bicycle for the mind, but it could be a bicycle for many applications to solve many societal issues and clearly can make an impact. So what am I looking for? I'm looking for projects linked to robotics in any kind of application, solving anyone's problem in an ethical, legal, with the societal aspect in implementing that. So that's clearly the focus, and I clearly believe that robotics today, and David shared that with us this morning, is at the beginning of the curve. It's really starting to improve, because we've been talking about robotics for the past, let's say, 20, 25 years. So why more today than like within 5 years or in 10 years? Well, there was a convergence of cost of electronics, knowledge of software, intelligence of software, materials, soft materials, we've seen that this morning, mechatronics abilities to go in very difficult to access areas. So all this led to many new startups, many new projects, many new research that can be applied on the field and try to test different markets. So that's why I think today is the right time for robotics, and it's the right time to amplify what men and women can do and not change them. I'm personally not a transhumanist. I'm not a disciple of Kurzweil, but there are a few good things about exoskeletons and prosthetics. I'm not a military guy, but there are good things in robotics linked to civil security. I'm French, and we could use these kind of things based on what happened in Paris lately. So there are a clear frontier to respect, this ethical, legal frontier to respect, but we have opportunities today with robotics to make an impact. So that's for the first part of the talk. I mean, why am I interested in robotics and what am I looking for? Based on that, I'm lucky to spend a lot of time in labs, to meet a lot of different great researchers, to meet different new entrepreneurs in clusters and incubators. And most of the projects I see are very early stage projects, really just out of the lab at very low TRL. And most of the investors, VCs, they are a bit shy, so to speak, in investing at this level of maturity. It's not that they don't want to invest in very early stage projects, but it's that for a risk management issue, they are their own investors and they have to diversify their risk. So that's why there might be a frustration for entrepreneurs not being able to be backed by VCs. But we'll see later on that VCs are not the only source of funding in Europe and in the world. The point here is, based on this very, very early stage project, what would be the lessons learned or a few advices I could maybe share with you? And it's really based on my experience. It's not something that you have to follow, it's more something that I can testify. First one will be, know what's the core of your product, especially with robotics. I see so many projects where people come and say, okay, I just reinvented the wheel and I did that better than the others. Well, but what is your product doing exactly? Well, it's a new kind of drone, okay, but what is the difference between your drone and what's already available on the market? What is it that you do better than the other? And by making sure that you know what's really the core of your project, what's really, and I'm not only talking about IP is one thing, but what is the service you give to the user? And then how will I personally market your product? That's important. Know your product and know what is your competitive advantage based on what's out there. Second thing, it's all about the learning curve. Don't confuse getting feedback with convincing people, especially when you are a first-time entrepreneur. Getting feedback is difficult because it puts you in a position where you have to accept that what you did is not perfect. But that's only when you get this feedback and that you make sure that you take it into account that you will avoid making mistakes. Some first-time entrepreneurs tend to think that I won't do the same mistake that others did before me. Well, guess what? You will. So in order to accelerate your learning curve into transferring your research or your product or your idea to the market, get exposure, meet people, talk to people, not only to build a team, as Silas perfectly described, but also to fine-tune the vision of your product, to go back to this core that you will sell then to your customers. Get feedback and open yourself to the world. Of course, there are IP issues, You don't want to be overexposed. But still, if you don't get this exposure in today's world, well, you may end up very quickly facing a problem, which is, oh, there's another team who already did the same kind of stuff. So what will I do now? So get feedback. Don't try to convince first, but get feedback and show what you can do. Third thing is also important. It's related to the learning curve. It's about failure. Be able to name failure in your product development. Either you somehow missed the target, namely that the product is not answering at all what you thought, or it's a problem of manufacturing, it's a problem of production, so it's the whole product development line. It's not only the design, but it's also the prototyping, it's the manufacturing, the contact. It's okay to fail. I know it's not very European to say that, that's clearly not French, but it's okay to fail. So that's a good lesson from the US. And if you fail, you get information from there, and then you can restart and do better. But you need to name failure, and you need to accept that as a first-time entrepreneur. And it's not because you fail that you won't find people to support you. The more you fail and the more you show you learn from it, you know, the easier it will be to find people to help. Fourth thing, low burning rate. For those of you who are not familiar with the term, low burning rate means that when you have a company, your monthly expenses for material, for salaries, for housing, gives what we call the burning rate. How much cash do you burn on a monthly basis to operate your company? And usually at the beginning, because you are a small team, because you are being incubated with low rent, because you are still at the prototyping level with not that much manufacturing cost, you have a low burn rate, meaning you don't burn cash on a monthly basis at a high level. So don't think that a low burning rate buys you time. That's usually totally wrong. If you have a low burning rate in an accelerating opportunity, in an accelerating market, it means that you are under-investing your own time. What does that mean? It means that if you have an opportunity, you need to invest, you need to go quicker, you need to spend cash, you need to spend money. We'll see later how to find cash, but you need to make sure that if you think the momentum is right, go for it, invest, and make sure you hire people, make sure you get exposure, make sure you go to the right incubator, the right location, whatever it is. Make sure you get the contacts with the research and with the industry, and that comes with a cost. So make sure you have enough fuel to do that. So don't waste time if you think it's the right time. Get to the right customer might not be the first thing you need, especially for robotics. Robotics is dealing with emerging markets in terms of users, not in terms of Brazil or Russia. It's dealing with needs that are here, but we don't know how to solve them. So it's a matter of discovering what will be your real first market. And it's usually not the first one. And let me share an example with you on that matter. I was fortunate to look after a company who was designing robotic fish. The first goal of the company was to use those robotic fish like this for very wealthy people pools. People who have tons of money in very warm countries, and they have pools, and swimming pools, I mean, and they are so bored with so many money that they are thinking of buying such robots to entertain them, but by dozens. So that's a market. That's really a market. There are people ready to waste money like that. But looking deeper into technology, I realized that part of the technology and part of the core of the product was not to entertain and to swim in the pool, but all the electronics that was embedded in the system could be used in a way that it was possible not only so that different fishes could communicate with one another underwater, but also could send real-time information outside of the pool to monitor whatever, depending on the sensors embedded in the system. So I took this device and I showed this device to big utilities, people managing a huge tank of water. And I'm talking about like big companies like Veolia in France. I don't know if you're familiar with them. So those guys, they manage the water for entire cities, and they have huge tanks of water, the size of a cathedral, on which they need to have real-time data to make sure that they don't have a problem with the water. I showed them the device, and they told me it's absolutely solving a bottleneck we have in real-time monitoring of our water. So guess what? That's a total different market. Not only in terms of size, but also in terms of pitching, in terms of marketing, in terms of manufacturing, and so on. The technology is the same. It's how can we put some sensors so that they can communicate underwater and send real-time information outside of the water. But still, it's a different scope. So that was not the first target market. And that's right here. And to address the right market might not come just like that. That's also about discussing with people, meeting end users, showing your product outside, and talking to people. So don't think the right customers is the first thing you need. Otherwise, once again, here you may lose a lot of valuable time. Final advice, and I think maybe it's the most important one. Don't validate your customer hypothesis with investors. You know, investors, they are not the one who will finally buy or use your device. So they may tell you, let's say, I won't say they, I may tell you, that's a great product, you need to do that. If I don't back what I'm saying with a potential end user, with a potential big corporate who will be able to put money on the table, then don't listen to me. It's useless. So talk to the right people for the right reasons. And with this, it's all about the partnership. So creating a company, it's really having the right people on board in the team, but to connect with the right people. Validate your product with customers. It's obvious, but still, it's not always the case. Try to raise money wherever you can, if you think that you can get something more than money. If it's just money for money, well, be careful of who you're talking to, because you may end up in reducing your opportunities, and we'll see that later. So it's really about the partnership. What is the strategy you want to develop? How do you want to connect to people? And what is the equity story, so we say, that you want to build? What kind of company do you want to build? So I use this for a transition on what is today the financial landscape or ecosystem where you can raise money and with whom you can partner. First thing, usual suspects, you know those guys. They won't fund your company. What is it? Indiegogo and Kickstarter, they are here to potentially validate a market opportunity. You can make the first bucks out of it, but those dollars will help you develop your first prototype. It won't make you sustainable. But the main thing also that those can bring you is exposure. And Sila just mentioned it, to get exposure and to get traction to raise more money from other sources. So it's both ways. Show that you also already identify the potential market, the first market, which might not be the final market for your product. So get this exposure, get this validation, and also get contacts with people outside, because all investors, should they be business angels, VCs, or whatever, we are looking at Kickstarter and Indiegogo very carefully. So that's the first way of doing things. Then, when your company matures and you go into the seed phase, you have business angels, either through crowdfunding like AngelList or through more traditional networks, EDM. Then for a second stage, you have VCs. VCs, they usually invest bigger tickets, but in more mature projects where you already have a pre-commercial or commercial prototype. And I need to accelerate a little bit. You also have corporate funds, or corporates who are potential strategic partners. What does that mean? It means that they may have an interest to buy your company when they feel it's mature enough so that they can integrate it in their own R&D roadmap. So those guys are more biased because they have a very strategic interest in acquiring your technology and your knowledge, but still, it's a source of financing. Of course, you have IPOs, but not all companies will go IPO. Not all companies will go public. But still, it's an opportunity of raising money. Once you've gone public, you have all the big asset managers that are trading your share, or all the banks that can lend you money. But you see, it's not at the beginning that you can get those guys. And don't forget also, I put Spark here, because it's the grants, the EU projects, and all what's happening at the national levels in terms of funding and banking system. So you have this whole ecosystem, and it's really a question of strategy. Who do you want to partner with? What is the maturity of your company today, and what is the most relevant for you to look for? If you tell me that you are just after the lab, and you are looking for validation of a prototype, don't go for VCs. It's a waste of time for you. They will welcome you, but they will say in the end, okay, thank you, come in 3 years. Don't go to corporate because it's too early. Go to angels, go to Kickstarter. And same thing, if you are pre-IPO, don't go to VCs. Talk to the real guys, go to the market if you think you have a strong equity story. So it's really a question of strategy. What is your maturity, what you want to do, and who you want to partner with, and what can they bring you? It's not only you pitching investors, it's also investors pitching you. What can they bring you apart from money? So that's all I wanted to share with you on the financial. I'll be open to discuss a bit more. But I still want to finish with one video I really like, because it's not really related to robotics, but it's related on entrepreneurship and what I'm really looking for in terms of difference and connections. So please. First thing I forgot, sorry to forget that. Your main funding source is the world market. Don't forget it. You're creating products to sell products to the world market. So don't forget that customers, they are the first source of financing, and in the end, unless you want to build a company and sell a company within 2 to 3 years, and so that's a different perspective, but if you really want to make a product and to have an impact and sustainable impact, don't forget that the world market is your first funder. And then we go
The fire should be higher. You were amazing. Let's do another one.
D'où vient ma passion pour le cinéma?
Like an explosion. Boom.
Je crois que j'ai toujours aimé le cinéma. Le travail avec les acteurs.
I know.
And after,
les effets spéciaux.
You can add some explosion.
Yeah, more explosions. That's always good.
He's an amazing director. Very sensitive.
I don't give a shit!
La mise en scène.
A white shot like that. Castle burning. We like that. Everybody screaming. Lot of blood. Boom. Explosion.
Le scénario.
Well, sorry, we're ready.
Yeah, come on.
La musique.
En fait, j'aime tout dans le cinéma. Vous savez, j'ai vu tellement de grands films depuis tant d'années qu'un jour je me suis dit, pourquoi pas moi?
So I'd like to conclude with that because, investing in a company is trusting someone who thinks one day, why not me? Who believes one day, why should I become an entrepreneur? Why shouldn't I start something? And the connection, the partnership is really about supporting these kind of dreams and this kind of impact you want to have on the world. So really go there, go fund companies, start projects, try to transfer your research to the market. It's a long road, but as this example is showing, it's possible. I'll be open to any questions. Thank you.
A very quick question. Hopefully Renaud will join us for the panel discussion at the end, so you'll have another opportunity for questions later on. Is So does anyone have a question?
Sorry.
That's okay. It's for the recording. So quick question.
Hello there. Great presentation, very inspiring. I had a question regarding like an entrepreneur or a person who wants to deal with entrepreneurship. Has a big vision for the future. What is your opinion on starting small and then growing slowly to something bigger?
Not every startup will become a unicorn, and that's the discussion I had over lunch with Jill, and it's okay. You know, the question today we have with robotics and also in Europe is how can we make an impact? Making an impact is an economic impact, is a societal impact, so there are different definitions to that. So really, what is it you want to do and how do you want to do it? Unicorn is, for some of you who don't know what a unicorn is, from my perspective, it's a company, it's a startup that reaches the valuation of $1 billion before in the IPO. So that's a big company. It's not only about unicorns. Great projects, great companies are being created on a daily basis, and they have an impact. And one of the bad things about maybe VCs is that what we say is out of 10 investments, or maybe 8 investments, they just wait 2 of those 8 investments to pay for the failure of the 6 others. That should change. And it's not making an impact is not only making an impact to become a high valuation company, it's also what do you bring, you know, to the market, what do you bring to the people and to the user of your system. So it's, you know, it's difficult to answer your question. It's really what is the DNA of your company, what is your DNA, and how do you want to do your business. And then once you answer that, the people who can help you achieve this dream might differ. So it's really an open question.
Thank you.